blacks all over the country would be afraid to walk out on the street. I would be terrorizing the entire United States. Just one man.
What a sense of power.
From 1977 to 1980, that one man, armed with a sniper rifle, hate-filled ideology murdered over 20 people across 11 states. His name was Joseph Paul Franklin, a white supremacist, domestic terrorist, and one of the most prolific lone wolf killers in American history. He hunted black men, Jewish individuals, and most frequently, interracial couples. In his mind, their existence was a violation, something he believed needed to be cleansed from society. The FBI called it terrorism. Franklin traveled the country under false names, slept in cars and motels, and funded his crimes by robbing banks. He used high-powered rifles to shoot strangers from a distance. In some cases, he waited hours, hidden in bushes or on rooftops, just to take a single shot. Over time, the media and law enforcement would begin referring to him as the Tracist Sniper, or man-race war. And that's exactly what he described, a nationwide racial conflict through fear, bloodshed, and chaos. But behind the trigger was not a trained assassin. He was a former churchgoer, a loner, a drifter, a man molded by trauma, consumed by ideology, and obsessed with violence. This is the story of Joseph Paul Franklin. The making of a killer. Joseph Paul Franklin was born James Clayton Voffingier on April 13, 1950, in Mobile, Alabama. He was the eldest son in a deeply dysfunctional family. His father, a World War II veteran, was a violent alcoholic who routinely disappeared for days and returned only to beat his children. His mother, Helen Vaughn, was described as emotionally distant and abusive. A neighbor once referred to her as a strict German perfectionist. According to Franklin, she showed no affection and rarely provided enough food for her children. He later claimed that his grandmother also abused his mother, continuing a generational cycle of violence. Franklin's siblings did not escape unscathed. One sister developed PTSD and depression. His younger brother, Gordon, spent time in and out mental institutions. Franklin himself would later say that his development was stunted. "I was always 10 years behind everyone else in maturity." As a child, Franklin showed early signs of social withdrawal. He was frequently bullied at school, and his eyesight was permanently damaged in an accident during his teenage years. This led him to drop out of high school. In his isolation, Franklin turned to evangelical Christianity, and eventually to extreme right-wing ideology. At age 17, he began reading literature by George Lincoln Rockwell, founder of the American Nazi Party. He soon became obsessed with the idea of a racial holy war. From faith to fascism. By the time he entered his early 20s, Joseph Paul Franklin had already lost faith in both his family and mainstream religion. His brief attachment to evangelical Christianity soon gave way to something darker: Nazism. What began as curiosity soon became full immersion. Franklin began reading books, newspapers, and underground pamphlets from far-right groups. He became especially fixated on Mein Kampf, Adolf Hitler's manifesto. In later interviews, Franklin said, "I've never felt that way about any other book that I read. There was something weird about that book." It gave him a framework for his growing hatred, especially toward Black and Jewish communities. In the late 1960s and early 70s, Franklin joined the National Socialist White People's Party, the renamed version of the American Nazi Party. He also had brief involvement with the Ku Klux Klan, where he met figures like David Duke and Don Black, both of whom would go on to become prominent white supremacist leaders. But even among extremists, Franklin felt out of place. He described these groups as weak, disorganized, and lacking commitment. They were mostly just talk. No one wanted to actually do anything, he recalled. Frustrated by what he saw as inaction, Franklin decided to act alone. At the age of 26, he made a symbolic shift. He legally changed his name from James Clayton Voffingier to Joseph Paul Franklin, a name carefully chosen to reflect both his ideology and self-image. Franklin was taken from Benjamin Franklin, one of America's founding fathers, a figure Franklin claimed to admire for nationalistic reasons. Joseph came from Paul Joseph Goebbels, The infamous Nazi minister of propaganda, known for spreading anti-Semitic ideology and inciting violence through mass communication. By combining the name of an American patriot with that of a Nazi official, Franklin created an identity that, to him, represented both racial purity and American nationalism. It was more than a name. It was a mission statement. After this transformation, Franklin began distancing himself from organized hate groups altogether. He believed they were ineffective and compromised by law enforcement infiltration. From that point on, he operated as a lone wolf extremist, convinced that only violence could achieve the racial cleansing he envisioned. This belief wasn't a passing phase. It became his purpose, and would soon lead to the calculated murders of men, women, and children across the United States. The first shot. Joseph Paul Franklin committed his first known murder on August 7, 1977, in Madison, Wisconsin. He was 27 years old that day. He was party shopping center lot when he noticed an interracial couple inside a car, a black man driving and a white woman in the passenger seat. According to Franklin, the man was driving too slow, and when he got out of the vehicle to confront him, Franklin pulled out a .357 Magnum revolver and shoved him point blank. Then, without hesitation, he turned the gun on the woman and shot her as well. Franklin himself explained that, "I figured, well, I'm gonna get the interracial couple. She was one half of it. I might as well get both, because I'll probably get caught for this anyway." When asked how he that moment, Franklin didn't describe fear, guilt, or hesitation. He said he was worried about being caught. Not for murder, but because he had stolen money from a bank just days before. "If I got into a fight with that guy, I'd be arrested, and they'd find the bank money in the trunk," he explained. His recollection of the murder was cold and precise. He even remembered the traffic lights turning green as he fled the scene. Later analysis by FBI profiler Mary Ellen O'Toole noted that Franklin could describe what he thought, but not what he felt. There was no emotional depth, no remorse, no reflection. It was the beginning of what would become a pattern: target, shoot, escape. And for Franklin, it wasn't just murder. It was mission accomplished. A pattern of blood. After his first double murder in Wisconsin, Joseph Paul Franklin quickly escalated. His targets expanded, his methods refined, and his purpose sharpened. On October 8, 1977, in St. Louis, Missouri, Franklin carried out his first sniper attack. He positioned himself near the Brith Sholem Nisith Israel synagogue, waited until Jewish worshippers exited the building, and opened fire from a hidden position. Gerald Gordon, a 42-year-old, was killed. 2 others injured. Franklin left behind the rifle, its serial number removed, its surface wiped clean of fingerprints. The act was cold, calculated, and designed for maximum impact on the Jewish community. Months later, on March 6, 1978, in Lawrenceville, Georgia, Franklin targeted Larry Flynt, the controversial publisher of Hustler magazine. He blamed Flynt for promoting interracial relationships through explicit imagery. While Flynt and his lawyer were walking outside a courthouse, Franklin shot both men with a high-powered rifle. Flynt survived but was paralyzed from the waist down. Franklin was never formally charged for the shooting at the time, but later confessed. Just a few months later, on July 29, 1978, Franklin struck again in Chattanooga, Tennessee. He waited near a Pizza Hut and shot a black man named William Bryant Tatum and seriously injured his white girlfriend, Nancy Hilton. The couple had just exited the restaurant when Franklin attacked. Another interracial relationship. Another violent response. On July 12, 1979, in Doravia, Franklin spotted Harold McIver, a black manager at Taco Bell, through a window. He was 150 yards away but still managed a fatal shot. Franklin later said that close contact with white female employees was enough reason to kill him. This was not random. It was obsession, fueled by imagined social boundaries. But Franklin wasn't satisfied with low profile attacks. In May 1980, he set his sights on Vernon Jordan, one of America's most prominent civil rights leaders. Jordan was staying at a Marriott, Indiana, when Franklin tracked him down, convinced a receptionist to reveal his room number, and waited outside. As Jordan exited the hotel, Franklin fired. Jordan was critically wounded but survived. For Franklin, it was a symbolic strike, an attempt to cripple the progress of the civil rights movement. Then came June 8, 1980, one of Franklin's most notorious acts. In Cincinnati, Ohio, he intended to shoot a mixed-race couple. But when no couple appeared, he turned his attention to Danta Evans Brown, 14 years old, and Darrell Lane, 13 years old, two black teenagers walking home from the store. Franklin, hiding above the overpass, shot both boys in the back. He would later claim he didn't know they were so young. But FBI profiler Mary Ellen O'Toole disagreed that with a scope and clear line of sight, there's no way he couldn't tell. The killings sparked outrage. For the first time, children were dead, and fear rippled across communities. But Franklin wasn't done. On August 20, 1980, in Salt Lake City, Utah, he ambushed another interracial group, Ted Fields and David Martin, two black men jogging with white female companions. Franklin lay in wait inside a field near Liberty Park. Out the group passed, he opened fire. Both men were killed, what law enforcement described as kill shots. Center mass, no hesitation. The method was familiar: isolate the target, hide, shoot, escape. But something else had changed. His urgency. Franklin admitted that by 1980, he believed the media wasn't paying enough attention. He told investigators that he just had to do more. More shootings, more pressure. Then they'd take it seriously. And with each shot, each life taken, Franklin believed he was pushing closer to his goal, a national race war. Follow the death. By mid-1980, Franklin had committed dozens of attacks across the country. But law enforcement still had no name, no face, and no clear suspect. His crimes were spread across multiple jurisdictions, separated by thousands of miles. Each shooting appeared isolated, until the Salt Lake City double homicide changed everything. On August 20, 1980, police responded to a field near Liberty Park. Two black joggers had been shot dead while running alongside two white women. The killer, tall weight, hidden in tall grass, and used a high-powered rifle with kill-shot precision. Shell casings and tire tread marks were found at the scene. For the first time, there was physical evidence. The tire tracks were traced to a rare model, sold mostly in eastern states, suggesting the killer was not local. Then, a key witness, a local sex worker. She told detectives that she had met a man driving a dark-colored Chevrolet Camaro, who claimed to be a hitman for the Ku Klux Klan. He had several guns in his motel room, spoke with a southern accent, and used a fake name. Most importantly, she remembered the motel he stayed at, and investigators recovered the license plate number from that motel's guest log. This detail cracked the case open. Over the next few weeks, investigators traced that vehicle, along with similar aliases, across at least 7 motels in different states, all leading up to Dave the Salt Lake shooting. Meanwhile, the FBI's behavioral science unit had been building a profile. They believed the suspect was a drifter, fueled by ideology, who funded his crimes through robberies. But another behavior stood out: the killer likely sold his own blood for cash between attacks. That odd detail proved critical. On October 1980, a blood bank worker in Tampa, Florida, contacted the FBI. A man had come in under a suspicious alias. He had multiple white supremacist tattoos, including Nazi swastikas and slogans, and seemed nervous. The man matched descriptions from the Salt Lake City witness. Agents tracked him to a nearby motel and arrested him without incident. His room was filled with weapons, disguises, fake IDs, and maps. His name, Joseph Paul Franklin. But the case wasn't over. During questioning at the Boone County Jail in Kentucky, Franklin escaped, slipping out through an unsecured window and vanishing into the night. It was a major embarrassment for local law enforcement. The FBI now launched a nationwide manhunt, placing Franklin on their most wanted list. They distributed bulletins with his real name, known aliases, physical description, and tattoo identifiers. His tattoos, bold, ideological, and unmistakably racist, made him easy to spot. Within a month, Franklin was recognized again. Acting on a lead, agents located him donating blood under a false name in Lakeland, Florida. This time, they didn't let him go. Franklin was taken into federal custody. The guns in his possession matched ballistics from multiple murder scenes. And as investigators began to confront him with mounting evidence, he started to talk. He didn't confess out of guilt. He wanted attention. And he wanted the world to know why he had killed. His motive, according to Franklin himself, was simple. I was trying to start a race war. That was my goal. And now that he had been caught, he would tell prosecutors everything. On one condition, they had to listen. Trial, confession, and final sentence. After Joseph Paul Franklin was apprehended in late 1980, he faced a series of charges related to his killing spree that spanned across multiple states. Due to the overwhelming evidence against him and his multiple confessions, many states decided not to pursue separate trials, fearing excessive costs and prolonged proceedings. The primary case that went to trial was the murder of Gerald Gordon, a Jewish man Franklin had shot at close range outside the Brit Israel Synagogue in St. Louis, Missouri, in 1977. This was the most well-documented of Franklin's murders, with both physical evidence and eyewitness testimony supporting the case. During his 1997 trial, Franklin displayed a chilling lack of remorse. Even when faced with overwhelming evidence, he showed no signs of guilt. In fact, he attempted to escape during the sentencing phase of his trial, but authorities stopped him in time. A psychiatrist, Dr. Dorothy Otno Lewis, testified on Franklin's behalf, suggesting that he suffered from paranoid schizophrenia and had endured severe childhood abuse that contributed to his delusional thinking. However, the jury found him to be sane and fully responsible for his actions. Franklin was sentenced to death for the murder of Gerald Gordon. He got executed in 2013. In addition to the death penalty in Missouri, he received 7 life sentences for various other murders he had committed across the country. Despite his extensive confessions, Franklin never demonstrated genuine remorse. In interviews later in his life, he claimed to have renounced his racist beliefs, though many found this difficult to believe. Joseph Paul Franklin's confessions were chilling and revealing. Throughout his interviews, he consistently justified his actions, revealing a mindset deeply entrenched in racism and a desire for power. Reflecting on his crimes, Franklin expressed a rare moment of regret when he said, "I feel sorry for my regret having done that. Well, in other words, I just wish I had not done it. I feel sorry for the people. It was really wrong for me to do that." While these words suggest some level of acknowledgement, they remain superficial, lacking the genuine remorse expected from someone who truly recognizes the gravity of their actions. In a conversation about his first murder, he admitted with chilling detachment, "I figured they were young, maybe just 18 or 19. I didn't know they were that young. I figured that just more targets." This statement reveals Franklin's complete lack of empathy, viewing his victims not as human beings, but as mere symbols of his racial hatred. Franklin's rationalization of his actions was influenced by his obsession with white supremacy, which led him to dehumanize entire groups of people. In another chilling admission, he said, "When I go out to kill rattlesnakes, I don't make any difference between little rattlesnakes and big rattlesnakes. I looked at blacks the same way." Here, he draws a disturbing parallel between human beings and animals, further dehumanizing his victims. Psychologically, Franklin's behavior fits the profile of a sociopathic and psychopathic individual. His inability to feel remorse, his lack of empathy, and his delusional thinking about starting a race war showcase the dangerous extreme ideological beliefs combined with a lack of emotional connection to the world around him. His words, "I was under the influence of the devil," suggest that he rationalized his behavior through an external locus of control, blaming societal issue and his upbringing for his actions. The lesson from Franklin's life is clear: extremism, when left unchecked, can lead to devastating consequences. His story is a stark reminder that hate and dehumanization are not just destructive to those targeted. They can consume and destroy while perpetrating the violence as well. Franklin was a man who, driven by irrational hate, sought to impose his will on others through terror. His story underscores the importance of addressing radicalization early, promoting empathy, and countering divisive ideologies before they can take root.